Good morning, folks. Today we're going to build a system that is going to allow us to build a form, and then we're going to write a script that is going to build a roster for our different sections of the form, and with a click of a button, keep it up to date if our student list changes. So let's get started. First step is to build a new form. So we'll just start with a blank form, and we're going to build it in this folder here. And this is going to be your form for what you're going to be sharing with all the different sections of your classes. In this case, we'll just call it example. And we can click over here and that'll get that named correctly in the file as well. So here's our example. And what we're going to do is we're going to have these untitled questions, but we're going to actually have different sections. So the very first thing that we need to do is build some sections for our in the form for our different sections. So I think the first thing we'll do here is just do section 1. And we'll just leave that as it is. It's a multiple choice because we're going to put names in here. Well, maybe we'll call this section 1 students. That's what we'll call it. And then the fast way to do this is to duplicate it. And this is section 2 students. Duplicate section 3. Duplicate section 4. Duplicate section 5. Let's say we only have 5 sections. So there we go. And now what we need to do is let's get back up here at the first section here. And one of the first things that we need to do is, now that we've built that, we need to actually add another multiple choice, and this is, choose section. So the student needs to first come in and choose their section. So this is going to be section 1. And then I think if I do this, I can copy that. I can go ahead and paste. So copy, paste, and it has to have a different name. Actually, maybe if I just grab section, copy, and then add an option and just highlight the word option and paste and paste and paste. Okay, so I got my 4 sections. So what we're going to do now is go to a section based on an answer. So what we need to do is next step would be to put each of these students in a different section. So now I need to add a section, and section 2 is going to be actually be called section 1, and then it has students in it. We're going to add another section. This is going to be all called section 2, and I don't think you can duplicate sections, so we'll add another section. We're going to have section 3. Highlight, let's see, section 3, and 4 and 5. Let's see what's on my, okay, there we go. We had section still on the clipboard, and section 5. We can just highlight all that, paste, and type in a 5. Okay, so we have our section. So section 1 students belong under section 1. Section 2 students belong under section 2. Section 2 students, we're going to move them up to section 2. Section 3 students are going to move up to section 3. And section 4 students are going to move up to section 4. And section 5 students are in section 5. Okay, so we have all that set up, and then what we have to do here is we have to, on this section, we need to go to a new section. So section 1, if they choose section 1, you're going to go to section 1, you're going to go to section 2, you're going to go to section 3, you're going to go to section 4, and you're going to go to section 5. Let's see. Example. Section 1. So it took a second to fix that. So if you select section 1, you're going to go to section 2. You're going to jump into the section named section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now when you get down here to section 2, instead of continuing to the next section, we're going to have to build another section in our form where we have some other questions. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to add a section here. So actually here at the end of this last piece here, we're going to add a new section. So here's our new section, and this would be, where you're going to have your questions. And here's where then we would add a question. What is your age? Whatever. You're going to put a whole bunch of questions in here, and in this case, I think I'll put this in as a short answer. So okay. So what we have to do now is section 1. After you complete section 1, you are going to go to the questions. After you fill out your name here, you're going to go to the questions. After you fill out your name here, you're going to go to the questions. You're going to fill out your name here, you go to the questions, and you're going to go to the questions, and then you're at the end you're going to submit. So let's just take a real quick look at this and make sure it's working. So if I choose section 1, next, I'm just saying section 1 students, next, I go to what is your age. So let's just double check. Let's go, say we choose section 5. That's section 5, next. Okay, so we're good. So that's all I wanted to do is double check and make sure that's working. For the next step, we need to add an app script to this form because I'm going to want to get the IDs of each one of these sections. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the 3 dots and go to the script editor, and it's going to open up and give us a blank function. We're going to call this section IDs, or actually they're item IDs, not sections. It's item IDs. We're going to need these items, so we'll rename that. And the function here is set up, and I want to find. I'm going to rename my function find IDs. Find IDs. Okay, and then inside of the function, what I need to do is we're going to put in a const, and it's going to be form, and it's going to be equal to formapp dot get active form, and we close that out with our parentheses and our semicolon. And then our other const is going to be items. Items is going to be equal to form dot get items, and you can see that right here. I can get my items, and again close that out, and then we're going to do a for, and what we'll type is a var, a variable I in items, and then that's closed out. So then we need to do an open curly bracket, and then what we're going to do is do a logger.log, and then we're going to log the items items, and then in square brackets we're going to log I, and then we're going to get the title, get title, And let's see, we're going to have to do that. Then we're going to also, we're going to add plus, and here we want a colon with a space, and then we want to add items I, and then we're going to want to get ID. And we're going to get ID and add that in there, and that looks like it should be right. We finish that off with our semicolon, and then that should be it. We should be able to save that. Now, the first time we run this, we're going to have to authenticate. Review permissions. Yep, I'm going to allow this. So let's try this again. The logger needed an uppercase. Let me save this and let's run it this time. And there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So now I have these section with these ID numbers. So the section for students, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Now, what I want to do is be able to capture that and find a way to paste that into something. So in order to, now that we have that working, what I want to do is go to my response tab and go ahead and make my spreadsheet that is for this form. And here's my example responses. So what I'll do is open up a new tab here because I want to collect this data here. So let me take a look at the executions of my script, and I can open one of these up, and I can this is a better way to grab a hold of this data. I can grab a hold of all that data. I want to copy that and then come back here, and I should be able to paste that data into the spreadsheet so I can get these sections. And I think what I need to do is let's highlight this and double click all that data out there. So what we want to do is at this point I need to clean this data up. So I went ahead and renamed that tab to the form item IDs. I have that. I can get in here now, and for my section 1 students, I can grab that ID when I need it. So that's perfect. So let's go ahead and add our students now, and this would be our sections. And I'm going to go ahead and populate this with some information. So I populated some students in there. Let me clean this up a little bit. I'm going to highlight, double click, make these my header section bold, and lock that first row. And then I think I'll run my little extension crop to data just to clean up that sheet a little bit. So I have 5 sections, 15 students each. So the next step then is going to be to use a script to populate these sections with these sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students. And then that script's going to allow me to go ahead and let me move this. This is the script. This is the script that we wrote that's attached to the form so that I could get those IDs. And this is a script. Now we need to write a script to populate the form with this. So let's, the first thing we're going to need is this form ID. So one way to do it is to just copy the URL. And then what I think I'll do is come over here to my form IDs, and right in here, I'm going to paste that URL. And the part of the URL that I need is everything after the D and before the slash before the edit. So That's the item ID. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to paste that there. That is the form item ID that we're going to need to use in the script that we're going to write with our for the spreadsheet. So the first thing that we'll do is go ahead and launch app script for the spreadsheet. And I always like to entitle it right away. This is going to be update form, update form items. That's what it's going to be called. I'll get rid of that space in there. I don't want a space in that name. And we'll rename that. So now we need to start writing the script that works for this. So the first step is going to be to clear out this old function, and I'm going to start with a const, and my const is going to be form ID. And that's going to be equal to, and that is where I'm going to want to use my form ID right here. So I'm going to copy that, and I'll go ahead and paste. So the const form ID is equal to that. That gives us our form ID. Then we'll move down, we'll start writing our function. So function, and this function is going to be to update section 1. That's the title of our function. We'll go ahead and do this. We'll drop down a line, and we'll start writing the function. We'll give ourselves some space. So the first thing we need is a const, another const, and that const will be student. And students is going to be equal to, and this is going to be equal to our spreadsheet app dot get active spreadsheet, and we'll pop down to get active spreadsheet dot get active spreadsheet, and go over one dot get sheet by name, and we'll come down here and get sheet by name. And that sheet by name, I think we named it students. We'll have to double check and make sure we've got that spelled exactly correct. And then it's dot get range. And the range that we want in this case is A2 colon A. I want to get all the students, and that's got to be a colon, A2 colon A. And then up, and of course, back up here, it has to be in a quote. So A2 colon A. So we're going to get that, and then we're going to get values. And that should be all for the first line there. Then we need to build an empty array. So we're going to do const clean student list, and we're doing this so that we can clean up any errors that might be in the data that we might have. So we're going to do const clean student list is equal to an empty array. And then we're going to do a for loop, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this just to save a little time. Go ahead and paste in my for loop, and then the next thing we're going to do is a const, and the const is going to be the form, and the form is going to be equal to form app open by ID. So we're going to do the form app. Oops. Form app dot open by ID, and the ID is going to be the form ID that we had already established in the up in the top. And then we want another const, and that's going to be form items. And our form items are going to be equal to form, which we've just defined, dot get items, and go ahead and finish that out. And then we need another for loop. Go ahead and paste this new for loop in here. What this is doing is getting us the ID. Now, this ID is an ID from what I just pasted. So I'm going to come over here. This is section 1 students. So I need to get, this is the form ID that I need to use. I'll go ahead and copy that, and I'll go ahead and replace that. So let's stop for a moment and look at what we have. We're getting the form ID, and then we're building a function called update section 1. In that case, we're getting the students from this spreadsheet. We're getting the students from the sections. Oh, I need to change that. It's called sections. So I need to fix that. I thought it was called students. So this is const students is get sheet by name sections. Get range A to A, get the values, and then for each of that, we're going to get the name item, and we're going to push it into this clean student list, and that's going to trim the data, any spaces or any empty values that we have. Then we're coming down here, we're opening the form ID, we're getting the form items, and then for each one of those form items, if the form items get ID is equal to that, we're going to take this list and form items and set it as a multiple choice item list. Let's see if this is going to work for us just with this section. One thing I might do, because I'm going to be duplicating this, I'll rename this. This is called section 1. That's what this one's called. Let's go ahead and save this. Let's see if it works. And I'm going to run it. And in order to, first of all, run it, we have to authenticate it on our first run through. So review permissions, allow, and let's see if this runs. So we did have we did get the information. We're logging that set of students. Let's see what's happened here and see if we can't determine why we have duplicate choice values. So in checking back here, I saw that I had the name Keith twice, so I replaced that. Let's try this again. You'd have to be sure that you don't have duplicate name values. So here's my form, here's section 1. Let's see if I run this script this time. There we go. That's what we're looking for. So the error I got was because Keith Collins was in here twice. So you'd have to be sure you don't have that. Hey, great. So now we've updated this list of students, and if I come back here, I'm just double checking. I don't think any of my other lists here have duplicate names, but we can double check that. So now that we've got that finished, this is section 1. And what I can do is basically, if this lets me, I can make a copy of this. So this is copy of section 1. This is going to be section 2. And then all that's going to change here is this range, B to B. So we're just getting the range from B to, and then we have to get our different section. So section 2 students is this value, and then I can just come in here and paste this value. I don't think anything else needs to change. Section 2, oh yeah, we need to rename this to update section 2. for the name of the function, and then see in here I want to update section. I want to call this section not teacher. Let's go ahead and double check this. Let's save that. And what we're going to do now that we've put section 2 is here, after section 1 runs, I'm going to go ahead and in here I'm going to tell it to run section 2 as updates. I'm going to run update section 2, which is a second value there. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. And just to show you, I'm going to go here, sections, and let me just add another row. I'm going to add another row here, and let's grab another name from to put in here. Let's just add, I don't have a Smith in there, right? So Smith, John. So we're going to add a John Smith in here. Let's just check and see if this is going to update this correctly. So I'm going to come here to the form. This time I'm going to run the form. We're going to see if John Smith comes in there. Run. We're going to quickly come back here and see if we have a new section of John Smith. We must have an error back here. Righty. So let's see what that error was. So looking at the error, it was that we've already declared the form ID. We can only declare that once. So when we copy this over, that's the other thing we have to remember. Let's go ahead and do that. Run, come back over, and let's see if we are getting our list. Yep, now we have section 2 updated, and I don't see John Smith in there. Let's check that. I think that's because we were executing section 2, not section 1. So let's update section 1 again and come back over, check it out. There's John Smith, and we can see that section 2 is in there. So now we can just finish this out. Let me do that real quickly. I'll do one more with you, and then we'll finish it out. So what we're going to do is get on section 2. Section 1, notice, has the form ID, so this will work great because now that I cleaned that up, I can just duplicate, make a copy of section 2 and call it section 3. This is going to be my new function in here. And this is going to be update section 3. I don't have to worry about that form ID problem. This is going to be C to C. And then we're going to come over here and get my form ID for section 3 students, which is this number here. Copy that, come back into my script, paste, and save that. And then when I come in here to section 1, I'm going to also update section 3. And so as soon as it finishes with the first one, let's go ahead and save that. Now we're on section 1. So let's just let's do one other thing that's going to make this nice for us. When we get this finished, we're going to put a script button on the sheet so that we can go ahead and update the script or update our sections. We can do that with a button in here. Let's just check one last time. So we have section 1, we got John Smith. Section 2, let's go back to our form. Let's run this function, and let's come back here real quick and see. Yep, there we go. Section 3 is updated. So let me just finish out the rest of this. So I finished the script. I've got section 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that I had to change the name of the function, the range, and the ID of the form item. And then I've gone and added, after updating section 1, go ahead and update section 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's take a look at our form one last time. We're down here on sections 4 and 5. They don't have students, but I come here to my script, I run it, pop back over here, and we should be seeing section 4 and section 5. So the great thing about this is that, and you can see that the script is executed and we've updated that. So what I want to do now is come in here, and I'm going to insert a drawing, and I'm going to create a little button. I'm going to create a button here, just going to call it update form. And you could get real fancy with this, but I'm just going to do something like that. Don't need to be any fancier than that. Update form, save and close. And here's a button now that I've put on my section page. In fact, why don't I just go ahead and insert a column to the right so that I can maybe make it a little wider, so I can just fit this button over here so that we can use this button to update our form. What we need to do then is get the name of this function. This is the function that we're using, update section 1. So we're going to run this function because that in turn runs all the other functions. We'll come back here, we'll click the 3 dots on our drawing, assign a script, and paste, and say OK. So now if our sections change, so let's for instance, let's just add 10 more rows here. Let's say that we add some more students. So you can see I've added a few more students to each of these sections. Let's come back and look at the form. We just have 15 students right now in each section, except for the John Smith where we'd added that extra one. So let's come here to our spreadsheet. If you're and this is the spreadsheet, by the way, where you're collecting the data. Here's our sections. As we add students in here, we just click the update form and we come here and you can see now we've got all these extra students. Let's compare that. James Martin is the last student that we see in section 5. Come to my sheet, James Martin. So it's a great way to update your forms and keep your rosters in different sections of your form up to date. Using AppScript, fairly simple AppScript. Hope you enjoy.